In today's video, I'm going to give you my top success habits. What's up, fam? Welcome back to the show. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and don't forget, in the description, I'm going to give you guys a nice little resource to continue your learning beyond just this video. So make sure to check that out. Okay, so let's talk about success habits. So there's a lot of different success habits, and I think the most important thing is to find the ones that work for you, right? So my number one is that's people that are focused on habits. They're focused on building new habits, right? So you're going to continue to be at a point where you're constantly seeking out new habits and eliminating less than desirable habits, right? This is an ongoing process. You never arrive at a point where you've made it, right? You're always going to be tweaking and refining and moving forward. So just keep on being persistent with developing new habits. And that might sound a little bit obvious, but seriously, that's one of the biggest ones I could give you, and it's why I gave it to you. Number one. All right, number two, celebrate your wins. All right, so something that a lot of big time top performing type people that are highly motivated is they don't really practice gratitude. They don't celebrate their wins. It's all about the next major accomplishment. The problem with that is that we know now through a variety of different science and what have you, that what really motivates people, if you look at billionaires, for example, what drives them is not the money, right? It's the joy in what they do. And I know that sounds, maybe a little bit different than what you would expect to hear, but the byproduct is the money. It's not what motivates them, primarily speaking. So there's a book that I read called Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine, and he actually studies the effect on a positive mindset. And actually, in some of the examples that he cited specifically, he says there's many people that will practice gratitude up to 1,000 things every morning that they're grateful for on the way into their office or before they get started with their day. That seems a bit extreme to me, but I do practice with 3 or 4 every single morning just to remind myself in the trenches of the work that I'm doing that I have so much to be grateful for and so much to be joyful for in my work and in my life. So I would really recommend you incorporate that as well. Number 3 is they keep a journal, right? So this is something I'm doing. I'm actually referring to my journal as I'm talking to you guys here today. But keeping a journal will allow you to have measurables in place. So one of the things that we just talked about was measuring your gratitude, right? Recording your gratitude. If you look right above where I took my notes here to talk to you guys today, you can see where I've kept my gratitude. I keep it right here in my journal. So one of the things that you'll be able to do is that throughout your day as you're working, you'll be able to keep track of the tasks that you're accomplishing, the things that you're doing, the needles that are being moved. And if you're not tracking that, I always say this, and this is something actually we post on social media often, but an unplanned day is a day filled with waste. So if we're talking about building new habits and we're talking about being a peak performer and really a maven at what you do, right? An expert at what you do. It really revolves around you having a journal so you can measure these things. Goals can only be achieved through tangible, practical steps. Well, you do that through a journal. So I'd highly recommend whatever journal you decide to choose from. I use the Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt. Highly recommend you engage with doing that exercise. Okay, so next is to have a wellness practice. So this is something that kind of came and bit me in the butt. Unfortunately, just weeks before my 30th birthday, I was diagnosed with a chronic health condition that had been misdiagnosed for decades. And it looked like it was going to pretty quickly trend into cancerous territory, and that I may be looking at a much shortened life than what anyone my age at that point would have anticipated. So the fact of the matter is that I was in the middle of a multi-7-figure build with my first company. And when I realized that I hadn't been taking care of myself and it kind of was rearing its ugly head, found out that I was going to have to go back and kind of rebuild a foundation. So if you look at the top performing CEOs, one of the things that they do that they're notorious for, literally notorious for, is they treat themselves like performance athletes. Brendan Burchard talks about it all the time. I would highly recommend, I don't know if you need to go to that extreme completely. I myself do. I'm a little bit of a health nut myself, and I've had to do so as a result of the story that I just told you. But I would really try to incorporate some healthy practices, right? Limit your alcohol, stay away from fast food, get plenty of sleep, exercise 3 to 5 times a week. I think if you do those things as a starter, one of the things that you'll note, and this actually was highlighted in Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, he talks about how exercise specifically is one of the keystone habits. What that means is that they found that there are certain habits that will somewhat create a domino effect. And so when you nail that habit, it knocks down other smaller bad habits that you have. So for example, People that are smokers, what they found is that when they engage in exercise, pretty quickly thereafter, they stop engaging with their smoking activity. Same with poor eating habits, because they're putting in so much work at the gym. It seems to have a ripple effect, so to speak, on other bad habits. In some cases, actually, as he cited, people are actually able to raise their credit score by like 150 points just by being consistent with going to the gym. So I know it sounds like a lot, but really and truly, there's so much science behind just the power of movement, being engaged, maybe changing your environment, sweating. All those things have a really profound effect on the body. I really recommend you start there, but don't let it end there, right? Again, sleep is critical. Maintaining your stress is critical, right? Eating and staying away from fast food and excessive alcohol is critical. So I would do all those things specifically, right? Specifically if you have big ambitions like I myself had, because whatever you're doing to the body, in terms of the stress you're putting on it, you're going to need to counterbalance that. It's a very, very important topic that we don't talk about much. We talk about balance. Balance is a little bit of a fallacy. I don't know that it's entirely impossible to achieve, nor do I think you want to achieve that. It's a topic for another day, I promise. However, if you can provide counterbalance, meaning that you recognize you're out of alignment in some places, and so you're doing things to strategically kind of bring things back even keels, so to speak. I know that sounds like balance, but I promise you it's not. You're allowing yourself to go into extremes. You're just recognizing it and kind of creating a little bit of a rubber band effect back to the other side to provide yourself with the things that you need. I often say that my funometer feels pretty low, and when that happens, I know that I need to engage in something enjoyable or fun or social, like an event or a dinner with friends or something like that. Okay, so the next is structure. And I know for my entrepreneurs, and many of you watching this are probably entrepreneurs, it's probably why you're here. Structure is not going to be too appealing to you, because the reason you probably started a business to begin with is because you wanted freedom, right? And I totally understand that, right? Jocko Willink is famous. He's a former Navy SEAL officer. He is famous for saying discipline equals freedom. When I first heard that, I had the same reaction that probably you just had, which was, no, that's not for me. However, one of the things you'll find is that if you are allowing yourself to work within constructs, right, within constraints, what you'll find is that you're not only going to maximize your work and your output, but what you also find is that it's going to open up the bandwidth for more creativity, for problem solving, for epiphany moments and things of that nature to happen. So like we talked about before, right, an unplanned day is a day filled with waste. I think part of that is having a structure, but here's the deal. Don't make your structure. If somebody says get up at 4 a.m, that may work for them, but it might not work for you. So there's something called a chronotype, kind of getting off topic here. But chronotypes basically will determine, are you a morning person or are you not a morning person? How should you really kind of work through your day? I'm not a morning person, so I don't kill myself to get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning, because that's not the type of person that I am, nor have I ever been. School was not fun in that regard. I was always barely getting in the classroom before opening bell, right? So create a structure. Just make sure it's a structure that you can work with. And again, like we talked about building habits and continuing to work on those habits, make sure you continue to tweak your structure, whatever that structure is going to look like, how you do your work, when you do your work. Always tweak and modify it, and recognize areas in your system that you've created where it's just not working like you'd like for it to. So always continue to optimize that. I think you're going to really find it to be very, very beneficial. Okay, so next is people that are successful. They seek out advice. All right, so no one likes a know-it-all, and if you have a know-it-all kind of attitude and you're willing enough to and vulnerable enough to recognize that, one of the things you'll probably realize is that it comes from a deeper need, right? Whether it is you have a self-esteem issue, or you've got to prove yourself, piece of bad data. I myself have the prove myself bad data. But one of the things that you'll find, though, is that people that really rise to the top, it's not that they don't do it alone, because the work requires you to really do a lot of pushing yourself. However, they seek out mentors, they seek out counsel, they seek advice, right? They're always wanting feedback on what they're doing and how could they optimize it, how could they do it better, how could they achieve more, how could they enjoy things more, how could they be more fulfilled, all those various things. So I know it sounds pretty simple as far as seeking out a mentor, and mentors are fantastic, but you probably have people that immediately come to mind where maybe you've dismissed some of their advice. Always be seeking advice, always be looking out for other people's feedback, as long as it's constructive. Make sure it's not toxic advice, but people that are really willing to sit down, hear you out, and provide some constructive feedback. Okay, so next, I got 2 more for you here. So acquire specialized knowledge is the next one. So that might sound fancy. It's really not as fancy as it sounds, but it's in the book Think and Grow Rich. He talks about specialized knowledge versus general knowledge. So basically what that is that whatever it is that you're specifically doing, whatever your career entails, whatever your business entails, one of the things you want to do is you want to continue to acquire knowledge in your specific field. So the reason why I say acquire specialized knowledge and not just knowledge in general, and the reason the book cites it as such, is because general knowledge is like stuff you could win at trivia, but it's not really going to move your life forward unless you're a trivia player for your career. So what you want to do is you want to figure out, this is what I do for my life. If I'm in a sales capacity, who are the best people in sales? Do they have a course that I can go through? Do they have a book that I can read? Do they have a training workshop that I can attend? Whatever that looks like, they're in constant pursuit of specialized knowledge. I see a lot of people that push beyond their middle-aged years, and they really kind of feel like they already know everything. Not necessarily just putting them into a box, but I see that more often with some of the older clients that I work with versus some of the younger clients that I work with. You want to be always hungry for more and more specialized knowledge and continue to level yourself up in every possible area as it relates to your specific field of work or the things that are going to benefit you the most. Keep in mind, these may change over time. You may have things that come up in your life that are different than other times, or you feel like, hey, right now I need to focus on my relationships, not as much as my sales ability, so I'm going to do that. I try to personally make room for all of these things. What I like to do is do it in micro bursts. All right, so what I'll do, one of the things that I'll do is I'll read maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day of a book that's specific to a certain topic. And then maybe I'll go through a course or a program that's 10 or 15 minutes and I'll allocate that time. And I'll do a relationship thing that's maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm spending like 30 to 45 minutes, but I'm covering 3 bases in so doing, right? I think many of us sit down and we think, oh my God, I have to read a book. Well, you don't have to do it in a day. I try to read about a book. I try to finish a single book in a month, and I'm reading multiple books at one given time. So at the end of the month, I finish 3 books or so, but I'm not, binging the book in a day and a half, right? So always be pushing for specialized knowledge. I think what you're going to find is that not only are you more skilled at what you're doing, but you feel much more confident in the work that you do and the relationships that you have too. Okay, so the last one I've got is to know how to disengage, right? So one of the things that's been majorly beneficial for me is to have really fun habits, right? Things that I do that just kind of take me away, kind of relieve the stress and put me in a different mindset. So I've always been a water junkie. I would live on the water. I am a water bug through and through. And one of the things that I really enjoy is just being out on my jet ski. So it was a huge goal of mine. I grew up on the lakes and I just really wanted to have a jet ski when I got older, and I was able to do so. I'm out there once a week. Rain or shine, doesn't matter the season, I find a time to get out on the lake, whether I'm just riding around, just enjoying the breeze, or I'm actually on the wakeboard or wake surfing or whatever the case may be. I try to find time to get out there. What I've realized is that when I do that, I just come back so refreshed and energized, and I have a different perspective on life and everything that's going on, and really fills up my gratitude tank big time. So find ways. It doesn't have to be a jet ski, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It could just be things that take you out of whatever it is, that mindset that you're in as far as your business. I know that there's some resistance around that, specifically for the big, type A performer type people. But I promise you, right, when you spend that time away, Dave Asprey gave a really nice reframe of this. He called it uploading time versus off time, right? Because it's just like your phone. Your phone turns off because it's putting in new upgrades. It's updating its OS. That's exactly what you're doing when you're taking time off. It's exactly what you're doing when you're taking time to fill yourself up in other areas outside of just the work that you do and really being, in grind mode. So I hope this is beneficial, guys. I hope you really got a lot of this. There's a million success habits. These are just the ones that immediately come to mind and the ones that I deploy most in my own life. Don't forget, I am including a resource below. It's actually my biohacker playlist, so you guys can actually look at the various biohacking ideas that I have, specifically when we're talking about the wellness things and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that I do that have just leveled up my abilities to perform at a high level. I think you guys will enjoy that. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. Drop me a comment below. Tell me which habits have worked best for you that I didn't cover in this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.